Okay guys, so we're now going to be trying to add detail on the couch since it's going to be just in front of the camera, so therefore it is one of the elements that needs to be really detailed. Okay, so this is going to be the piece of furniture that we're going to be making. Well, this is the brand, that is Rococo, and this is the name of the model, so it's Ellipse 2. And here in the web page, we don't have that much information in terms of how the objects behave in real life. I mean, this is actually the only picture we have as reference. And well, in here we can see a little bit of how it is. So one thing that I can suggest you to do is go outside, go to maybe a furniture seller, and try to take pictures of couches, even with your cell phone, and try to see how the seams behave, how the fabrics behave in points of tension, such as in these ones. Therefore, with all those pictures, you can already have a really good reference, a real life reference of how these objects behave in real life. We already have our basic model that we are going to be importing into ZBrush. How do we do this? If you have ZBrush, you have already a plugin that automatically installs in 3D Max, and this tool is named GoZ. So basically you only need to select the model and press GoZ Edit in ZBrush. But we're going to be doing one more thing before everything, so just to start from scratch, we import the model again. We will rename whatever it is. Okay, so since all the models will have a name in ZBrush, we need to rename every single one of these. Actually, we're not going to be importing the whole model. These elements will not be imported since pretty much they are the same and therefore they can share the same UVs. So we're going to be only creating UVs for one element and then copying them into all the rest of the feed. So this is the only one we're going to be renaming. Okay, so we have only one here, here one, here one. Okay, so the UVs in 3D Max, well, in every single software, are really important to understand. Okay, so just start, what is UV? Well, actually, according to Wikipedia, UV mapping is the 3D modeling process of projecting a 2D image to a 3D model surface for texture mapping. This process projects a texture map onto a 3D object. In the 3D, let's say, the U and V stands for the X and Y, since basically X, Y, and Z are already taken for the axis in 3D. We use U and V to denote this axis in 2D space. So X is the U and is the horizontal axis, and V is the vertical axis and stands for the Y. So basically the UVs allow us to project a map, a texture into the 3D object. Basically it tells the 3D package where to use a texture in the 3D model. Okay, so there are two ways that we can approach this process of UVing. One is at the beginning of the process when the basic model is already done, and the other one is when the 3D model has been already detailed in ZBrush, we can later UV the model. So there are the two different ways. I mean, they are actually correct, but let's say that in the first case in which we, right from the beginning, right now, we start UVing our object, This means basically that the model won't affect changes. The volume of the 3D object won't be affected later in the process, and therefore the map that will be created will be adapted to this shape. Okay, so, and I mean that the model won't be distorted later. What do I mean by distorted? Let's say that this face here has a proportion, right? And it represents the object in this shape. I mean, this is a rectangle. This is another rectangle. And later, during the modeling of the high poly modeling of this object, this face, even if it's divided, the proportion of this face won't be changing. Later I will explain you a little bit more about this, since we're going to be high poly modeling. But if in the end the model won't be affected, I mean this shape, this volume won't be affected, will not change, it is okay right now if we start UVing it. But instead, if we're going to be softening these volumes, these shapes, these polygons are going to be changing, the best way to UV these objects, it will be later down the process, when the final shape is going to be blocked, and therefore it will not have any more changes. So before ZBrush, everything was to be UV'd before the modeling, the high poly modeling. But after ZBrush came up, even with a plugin named UV Master that you can find here in the C plugins, UV Master, the process of the UVing is actually come really easy, and actually we don't need to understand that much of the modeling of the UV. Is even about relaxing, not relaxing, sewing and stitching and everything. No, actually the process right now is actually quite easy, and there are many times in which it's even without distortions. And distortions, I mean that the texture won't be stretched or pinched in several places. So I will explain a little bit more down the process, but let's get started with importing the low poly model into ZBrush and start modeling it. One more thing that I need to tell you before going ahead and importing this into ZBrush is that we actually need to simplify a little bit more the model here, and I will explain to you why. Basically, this is our model, right? So in here you can see that there are going to be faces that we are not going to be seeing at all. And these faces are precisely the ones that are here back and are totally hidden to our eye, and therefore basically they are useless. In 3D model, you need to understand that you need to model and detail everything that is going to be seen from the camera, and the rest of the object, I mean, for the sake of optimization and memory handling, it's better if we delete or basically forget about this part of the model. So we just delete this face and totally delete them. If, for example, this would be an animation, and in some point we would need to see underneath this part of the couch, we would need to leave that as it was. But since that is never going to be happening, it's better for us if we delete that part of the model. Okay, so with that said, one more thing here as well. That we're not going to be seeing. And I think we are already set for going into ZBrush. So we press GoZ, edit in ZBrush, and it automatically imports the model into ZBrush. Okay, so we're going to be starting to model this high poly object.